with thanks to our pop-up choir, which gathered for the first time this morning. Yeah. In the words of the song we just sang, from the new UU virtual hymnal, we hope you find joy in this morning, and hope in our children, and strength in each other, and love all around us as we gather. And that's the perfect reminder to release ourselves from our cell phones for an hour. To give ourselves a break. That was actually the very next line. To release ourselves from our cell phones for this hour, to give us that chance for some silence. And I invite you to turn now with open-heartedness and courage to say hello and good morning to the people around you, making sure that everyone is greeted well.
What a way to begin, huh? It was beautiful. And as we offer our land acknowledgement this morning, we remember that for the Nisenan who have lived here for generations, they've lived on this land, and for them, there's no separation between spirituality and service. They serve the land and all that live here, and the land and its plants and its animals serve them. We rejoice with the Nisenan people that they have regained a small amount of their homeland and can continue their traditional practices here without interference. With this basket of black oak, this basket of black oak acorns, we affirm their desire and intent to support and be of service. No, we affirm our desire and our intent to support and be of service to them in whatever way we can, under their guidance and at their request.
And since Sharon Walters is not able to be here this morning, Mark Grove is offering our lighting of the chalice words.
Morning. Yes, I'm not Sharon. A piece by Mary Sheldon called Glow Hope. More than a relic, living symbol. Beacon to the bewildered, illuminating refuge. Light of love, calling to community. Signal of sacred mission. Shine now in the world, set being ablaze, kindle our courage, ignite intuition. Spark our hearts to service. Glow hope.
All an invitation for lighting this symbol of our tradition, our Unitarian Universalist tradition, this flame in a cup. Call it a flaming chalice. From that same light, we'll be lighting the light that will go with our children in a moment to Kids Connection. But I noticed there is a box here. Every week it's a different box. It's the Wonder Box, and I wonder what's in it. Paper and 4 rolls of paper. And I noticed there's a whole ream of paper here too that did not fit in the box. And I have no idea how our young people are going to be using these. So I'll be very curious to know, but I wonder if there's a young person here or one of the adults who would come and get the Wonder Box and the paper.
Andy.
Excellent, excellent. This is heavier than usual. And we sing our young ones on their way.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains. Today, we wrap up our September theme of building belonging by exploring a topic I find actually rather provocative: serving with grace. Our service title comes from a very small, very thoughtful book by Erik Walker Wikstrum titled Serving with Grace: Lay Leadership as a Spiritual Practice. I'm Cheryl Morris, serving as worship associate this morning. I get the serving part. I'm not so sure about the grace part. That's a word I've heard a lot in recent years, and I really went down a rabbit hole looking up definitions and examples of it. I suspect it's one of those things that are hard to define, but we know it when we see it. We'll be looking at different ways of serving our UUCM community with grace. What if we approached all aspects of church life as a spiritual practice? For me, that might mean meditating before preparing the agenda for a worship team meeting, getting clear about what's really important, or a bigger stretch, before looking at numbers on a budget spreadsheet. What if getting things done isn't as important as how we do things? Not efficiency and productivity, but connection and relationship. What if we looked at all of our tasks and commitments and interactions through a spiritual lens, whatever that means to each of us? What kind of growth would ensue for us as individuals and as a community if we did this? Whatever brought you here today, whether you're a newcomer, a long-timer, or somewhere in between, I hope you find food for thought, reflection, and maybe, just maybe, action. There's joy to be found in serving, and it's available to all of us. Thank you and welcome.
Oh, once again, it's been a week. I invite us to take a breath. Just separate ourselves from any of the busyness of the week and the concerns and the fullness of the morning. I invite you to notice your breathing. No need to do anything with it. Just notice it. That it's your rhythm. As a colleague of mine invites, I invite you to receive these breaths. Don't need to make them or do anything. Just receive them as they arrive. Just being still these days and quiet and attentive is an important practice, important act. Welcome to our time together. I've shared the story before of a cartoon I saw years ago. There's a giant wall, and on the top is emblazoned in very large letters, "Your church needs you." And then there are banks of committees, dozens and dozens of committees. The Pigeonhole Committee, the Committee on the Formation of Committees, the Dust Bunny Chasing Committee. And there's a minister standing in front of it and a couple, and the couple's looking at it, up at it kind of with a worried look on their face. And the minister says, well, most of our members are on 7 or 8 committees, but since you're new, I'm sure people will understand if you only are on 3 or 4 to start. Anybody resonate with that story? Either in this institution or another institution? It's not uncommon for someone who's new to this community, to UUCM, to explain to me in our early conversations that they're feeling a little bit leery about joining because they're afraid they might get sucked into doing more than they want to do. This is especially true since the arrival of the pandemic in 2020, since which many of us have reimagined how we want to spend our time, reimagined what's important. And while that fear of getting sucked in is not an entirely unreasonable fear, this is a human institution after all, neither is it necessarily the reality. It's certainly not the ideal or the goal. My goal always is that people find ways to participate and engage and serve here that bring them joy or that are meaningful growth possibilities for them. Not participation merely because the congregation needs you, although that is always true. The ideal, as Cheryl named, is to serve with grace, to serve such that the doing itself is a means to our own personal growth, our self-understanding, our sense of connection, and our spiritual growth and depth. To see all of the ways we participate here as potential spiritual practices, no matter how mundane, even if it's chasing the dust bunnies. To go deeper into that idea and to get some context, I feel a need, given our current social climate, to take a side trip to Nazi Germany. I shared in one of my columns in the weekly newsletter recently a brief story of James Luther Adams, one of our most significant Unitarian Universalist theologians, who in 1927 found himself watching a giant 4-hour Nazi parade and rally in Nuremberg, Germany. He asked some people on the sidelines to explain to him the meaning of the swastika that was on all the banners, and he soon found himself in a very heated argument with people. So suddenly someone grabbed him from behind, forced him through the crowd, down a side street into the deserted dead end of an alley. The person shouted at him in German, "Don't you know to keep your mouth shut at a parade in Germany today?" And James Luther Adams wasn't at all sure what was about to happen. And then the man smiled. James Luther Adams said he didn't know what was going to happen, but he was certainly feeling the effects of Nazism until that smile. And the man said, if you had continued the argument 5 minutes longer, those fellows would have beaten you up. Actually, he said they would have bashed your head in, is what he said. The man who grabbed Adams had remembered the hospitality that he himself had received in New York City when he was part of the German Merchant Marine, and he saw this moment as a way he could repay that hospitality by grabbing Adams, pulling him out, and helping him be safe. So he invited Adams to his home and to his family for a very humble Sunday dinner, where Adams saw the intense economic distress out of which Nazism was born, as Adams put it. He saw the economic distress, the poverty. And he learned from his new friend, this unemployed trade unionist, his host, how one by one the organizations that did not bow to the Nazis were being threatened, how freedom of speech and freedom of association were being taken away systematically. And this was a little bit earlier in that history where they were recognizing this. So out of this disturbing experience, this very disturbing personal experience, and then several others which Adams had in Germany in the next decade, Adams realized that he had to ask himself, what in your typical behavior as an American citizen have you done that would help to prevent the rise of authoritarian government in your own country, the United States? He asked himself, what disciplines of democracy, except for voting, have you habitually undertaken with other people which could serve in any way directly to affect public policy? Out of this rather humbling question to himself, because his answers were very scant, Adams began to realize and to focus on the vital importance of the freedom of association, the freedom to join, to form, to participate in groups or organizations or unions without interference and without any coercion. You weren't forced to be in them, you chose them. More specifically, he focused not merely on having that freedom, but on the importance of exercising that freedom. Not just having it, but using it. In all of the many kinds of groups that formed and that gathered for myriad reasons. The many groups he categorized as voluntary associations because people joined them, created them voluntarily, like library associations, women's clubs, the Elks, temperance unions, labor unions, fire brigades, political groups, musical groups, ethnic and cultural organizations, recreation groups, social clubs, bowling leagues, and religious communities that people join and shape and operate by choice. Not because anyone forced them to, but because they choose to be part of a religious community. In the eras of deep religious and political repression in the 1500s, it was our religious ancestors who were in the radical left wing of the Protestant Reformation. They insisted, to their peril often, on the freedom of association, their freedom to gather without interference and without coercion. That was the only way to arrive at real faith, they believed, and the only way to be able to live their values in community. They wanted to live their values, not just have them. In this, they were echoing, really, the radical freedom and inclusion of the very earliest Christian communities of antiquity, those very first ones, where women were invited, and people who were enslaved were invited, and people shared the roles of caring and creating the community. That insistence on the freedom of association is not just a political thing, it's in our spiritual, religious DNA as Unitarian Universalists. So Adams made 2 main points about voluntary associations of all kinds. One, he said that it's in these kinds of groups, these voluntary groups, that people create and embody, where people practice the messy work of being in community together, where people learn how to navigate differences and varied opinions, how to combine energies to do large things, and how to amplify lesser heard voices, where people develop leadership skills and learn how to express and make a case for their views, and learn how not always to get their way. Where people were, in essence, learning and practicing how to be citizens, how to be humans together in community. This is what held up democracy, he realized, and other people had said, that people have all these chances to practice it together in their own smaller groups, and that's what allows it to play out in the larger context of the nation. His second main point was that free voluntary associations are the way that everyday people can gather up enough energy and power and influence to take on the larger institutions and keep their excesses in check. That these organizations of all kinds were ways that people developed this capacity and understanding that they could do this. Any healthy democratic society is a multi-group society, he said, as he was extolling the virtues of voluntary associations. And this is the pluralism we continue to value as Unitarian Universalists. The pluralism that we say is so important. It's not just because we like it, it's because playing it out has such large implications. Now, I grew up in a little town of Maple City, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's a little village, maybe 200 people. I grew up outside this in the country, and we always thought it was called Maple City because there was so much maple syrup production around. But it turns out it's called Maple City because they made little wooden pegs for shoes. They used wooden pegs to hold the sole of a shoe to the upper. So they'd tap it in, and then when it got moist, that wood would swell and make a really tight seal, and it was much faster than stitching by hand. So people used wooden pegs for shoes. So it was actually called Peg Town. because a gentleman had come and created this factory to make these wooden pegs. And it was called Pegtown until it got a post office. And then it was called Maple City. Now, Cypress, there's a picture here. So this is the corner post office that I grew up. Would you back up, Cypress? I'll tell you when to move, please. Yeah, so you can see how rural this is, right? This is in the center of town. in Maple City. And so I went to this post office all my childhood and high school years. And it wasn't until toward the end of high school I thought about the upper story. The post office was in the bottom floor. And I had never thought about it until, for some reason, I can't even remember why, I had a chance to go up and in there. Here's the next picture. So on that second story, I went into this tall, big room up in the top story, and there were these long pictures, dusty black and white pictures of people in their Sunday antiquity clothing best, probably from the 1800s or early 1900s, large, like a couple hundred people, women, children, men, gathered under trees or in some lawn. And there was one for each year, and this was the annual picnic gathering of the International Order of Oddfellows in Maple City. And that's the first time, next picture, that I ever paid any attention to this that was above the door. International Order of Oddfellows 255, building there, built in 1938. This was like a huge organization that no longer existed, although Maple City, that little tiny thing, did have two churches, a Catholic church and a Protestant church. In describing the United States in the 1800s, the French observer Alexis de Tocqueville wrote that in no country in the world has this principle of association been more successfully used or applied to a greater multitude of objects than in America. He went on to say that in France, behind any big undertaking, you'd find the government. Or in England, you'd be likely to find some person of rank. But he said in the United States, behind any big undertaking, you will surely find an association of some sort. James Luther Adams summarized it this way: where 2 or 3 Americans are gathered together, you may be sure that a committee is being formed. We have been a nation of joiners. But Adams also made a distinction between 2 kinds of voluntary associations. Special interest groups, which are focused on like shared hobbies or things people wanted to do, in which individuals get mostly what they need from being in the group, right? It's focused on what individuals get from being in the group, a special interest group, as opposed to groups that promote the general welfare. It's another, people who gathered to reform prisons or to reform mental institutions or to serve the poor, right? Groups that gathered for the purpose of the general welfare. He wrote, the health of democracy depends on the capacity of the general welfare associations to function as countervailing powers against the narrower purposes of the special interest associations. We need both. One helps put a check on the other. Many religious communities, certainly Unitarian Universalist communities, function as both, as special interest groups, right, for what we have in common, what we share, and groups that promote the general welfare, ideally. And this distinction shows up when we start talking about, are we about spirituality or about social justice, right? It's both, but 2 different aspects of being in community. Before his experiences in Germany, liberal religion was for James Luther Adams a more personal, internal realm. It was more about this. But after Germany, he came back and saw and taught the importance of religion and religious communities also influencing and affecting the larger society, the general welfare, both and that became a cornerstone of how he taught his theology. Which brings us at last to serving with grace and to understanding our participation and engagement in a community such as this as a powerful, continual spiritual practice of being in messy community with one another for our self-interest as well as for the general welfare. So our personal well-being as well as the general well-being, including democracy itself. But before I go any further, an invitation from Barbara Johnson to one of those delicious opportunities for practicing being in community. And then we'll have a heart-focused experience, musical experience together. Barbara.
Good morning. So this is a very special Sunday because today is the first day that you have an opportunity to sign up for a circle supper. So how many people have ever attended? A lot. Well, from my experience, I can say it's a wonderful experience. It's a great opportunity to enjoy delicious food together, make new friends, and their circle suppers are hosted by people who volunteer to host, and everybody as hosts have already signed up. And the way this generally works is the host will choose a venue for the event. It doesn't have to be a supper. It might be a brunch or tea, whatever. And they will have select the, not the menu, but maybe what type of cuisine they want. And all the guests will bring something for the potluck. And so, what was I going to say? Oh, so today is that's about all I can say. It's a great way to meet new people. The first time I ever came to a circle supper when I was new here, I went home with 4 new friends. So it's a great experience. So I encourage you to participate. And you can sign up after service. There will be Teresa, who's right there waving her arm with the clipboard, and other people, I think, and you're also able to sign up online. So I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. Thank you.
Barbara, thank you. A testimony on the power of gathering around a table full of food. I have shared this in other settings, but not everyone will have heard it too. There was a UU congregation that applied for a grant to get more members. What they wanted to do was advertise. They wanted to do billboards. They wanted to put big advertising out to bring more people into the congregation. And the granting institution said, we'd like to give you the grant, but let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish. And after some conversation, they realized that plenty of people were coming to visit the congregation. It wasn't like they needed advertisement to get people to check it out. It's just that they weren't staying. So they said, well, why aren't they staying? And so they interviewed people, and they discovered that again and again that people stayed after they had had a meal with someone from the congregation. That was the connection making that made the difference, right? We have this one-on-one personal time in a gentle way over food, how to argue with that. So it's one of the reasons we've been taking a little time in these past several Sundays to say circle suppers. Somebody hosts, other people gather. It's a really vital way, actually, to make a connection. So Barbara, thanks for offering a testimonial to that effect based on your experience. We honor our joys and our sorrows this morning with the stones and the bowl of water at the entrance. There's also a pad with some Post-it notes. I encourage you, if you're in the room, to write some of your joys and sorrows anytime during the service or on your way out. And the Zoom folks have a chance to type into the chat some of what you carry. This morning, rather than do that ritual here, Corey Silva is our lay pastoral care person who will be staffing that bowl after the service. And we'll also take a moment now to honor, besides our personal joys and concerns, the larger ones that we come in with. So once again, we'll light our candle of compassion, resistance, and resilience, a ritual that was initiated and shared with us by the UU Society of Sacramento, where Sophia McCain, a member of this congregation, is preaching their first sermon and being commissioned as the Society's new ministerial intern this morning. Yeah. And so you'll be able to view Sophia's sermon online afterward. I know that threats to freedom of speech and even to freedom of association are present in the minds and hearts and bodies of many of us. as well as threats to life and limb for some of us who have faced lifetimes of discrimination and danger. The news has been heavy and hard again this week. And also, people are caring for each other, being creative, caring for the land, caring for the community in heartening and courageous ways. Our lives continue to be laced and graced with goodness and kindness and joy and gratitude, resources for our resilience. So we lit this candle with all of that in mind and heart, as well as what we carry personally. And with that, I invite all of us to sing this song of care as we hold each other. Invite Cheryl Ritchie, your congregation president, to pick up the thread of serving with grace.
My understanding about serving as a spiritual practice has come slowly. I know how to work, get things done, collaborate, cooperate, compromise, resolve conflicts, work alone, work in teams, take charge and lead, take a role and follow. I know how to set smart goals. Early in my career, a mentor told me, don't confuse effort with results. If you don't get the job done right and on time, you wasted your effort. Having spent 25 years in a work environment where rewards were based on getting things done through any means necessary, it's easy to understand why I had a lot of relearning to do when I started serving as a volunteer. My first lesson about service came through learning and practicing yoga. I was very good at climbing the corporate ladder, but ultimately it led to an existential crisis. When I left the corporate world at age 52, I embarked on a spiritual journey that brought me to an ashram and meaningful time living in community and studying yoga. I was so conditioned by hard work, a measurable outcome, followed by a reward, that the concept of karma yoga blew my mind. Karma yoga is one of the 4 paths of yoga and is considered the path for active, practical people. From my yoga teacher training manual, it is described as follows. It is difficult to find a better method for mental and spiritual purification than serving others without regard of reward. Give as the sun, as the trees, as the flowers, that we may sustain and perpetuate the evolutionary cycle of the universe and its strongest force, which is love. Love vibrates in the form of service. Coming from a world of conditions, transactions, and rewards, this is a concept that is still serving me today. Serving with grace is an aspiration. A small group of karma yogis were asked to build a rock wall on the ashram grounds. We heard an appeal from the head Swami about the need for and the importance of getting this done for an upcoming public event. We were given instructions by an outside contractor and the tools we would need. Then we were on our own, working together. Many personalities came out. The bosses, the doers, the planners, the procrastinators, the protesters. People were ordering, directing, arguing, complaining, or just quietly working, or sitting in the shade and watching. We worked on it for a few days, didn't finish it, and it didn't look very nice. We were told we could stop and another class would pick up where we left off. I stayed on after my training ended. Another class got the same lesson, only the rocks that were becoming a wall had been put back in a pile. The lessons began again for the next class and have continued for years. It has taken many years for me to appreciate the lessons I learned from that experience. Obviously, the result of ending up with a rock wall was not the goal. Learning how to build a rock wall was not the goal. There was no goal. The lessons were about people working together. What motivates me to work? What interests do I have? What skills and experiences can I bring? How does my personality fit in the group? What are the other personality types in the group? How does the group find joy, or at least satisfaction, in working together? Can we find ways to get along when there are disagreements or different points of view? Can we allow others to rest and say no? Can I let go of ego for the good of the group? Can I let go of judgments? Can I be satisfied working without external reward? I continue to add to the list of lessons I have learned through that experience. If I had read Erik Walker Wikstrum's book, Serving with Grace, without having begun by learning the lessons of karma yoga. My mind would have been equally blown. I'm not suggesting that volunteering at UUCM is equivalent to building a wall that wasn't really needed. But we are living together in a voluntary community. The difference here is that serving is a choice, and the way we choose to serve is open to whatever interests us. Is our interest in using the skills we have or learning something new? I was born to lead, so stepping into a leadership role on the board is not a leap for me, but learning to do it with grace is. I was also born with a mind that thinks in numbers and organizes things. Stepping in to volunteer for finance committee was a natural step for me. But learning to view finance work as a spiritual practice is a challenge that helps me be a better person. There are some things that must be done, paying our employees and bills, for example. But some opportunities to serve come and go based on the level of interest in the community, based on the skills and experiences people are willing to share, based on the level of energy and availability of time people have to offer. Coming together, leading, serving, and participating is what makes us a community. Accepting each other as we are without judgment. Taking turns, stepping up, and giving when we can, and resting and receiving when that becomes most important. Our community will ebb and flow, but most importantly, to repeat the lesson of karma yoga. By serving others without regard for reward, we will perpetuate the cycle of the universe and its strongest force, which is love.
Oh, perfect person to be president of the congregation. Thank you. As Erik Walker Wikstrum, the author of Serving with Grace, asks, could you experience the meeting room as a zendo? And the deliberations of a task force as a form of group prayer? Imagine church, he says, not as a place led by a few overly taxed people, but one where leadership is broadly shared, where ministry is broadly shared, that people in tasks that they take on for the joy of it. He asks, can you understand your work for the community as an integrated aspect of a fully rounded spiritual life? The doing as part of a fully rounded spiritual life. This is exactly parallel to and part of what Adam's identified for us, that creating and sustaining a community such as this accomplishes much more than we might at first realize. The doing accomplishes more than we realize. Cheryl raised the challenge of the word spiritual, and we've spoken before of the challenge of defining that word, but for these purposes, Wikstrum draws on Scott Alexander's definition, or at least his description. He says the purpose of any spiritual practice is to examine, shape, and care for your life and the life around you, to achieve more wholeness, more satisfaction, more depth and meaning. The purpose of any spiritual practice is to examine, shape, and care for your life and the life around you, to achieve more wholeness, more satisfaction, more depth and meaning. The spiritual practice of being this community, even in the most mundane of activities and the briefest of interactions, can help us do exactly that, examine, shape, and care for our life and the life around us. It's a way to develop and strengthen and live our values in a community that shares them. At any moment and in any activity, we might have the chance to learn, as Wikstrum puts it, to see the holy in the troublesome or grouchy member who objects to everything. The chance to learn more about ourselves and our gifts and challenges, as Carol has been lifting up. by the need to decide which church tasks to take on and which to decline, no matter how nicely or persistently someone asks. In other words, to learn that our no is just as sacred as our yes. The reason we'd say no is so that we can say yes to the things that really matter, or that really fit, or that we really want to do. Any moment we might have the chance to get more clear about what we're thinking and feeling, and in fact, to express it to other people honestly. Any moment we might have the chance to reveal a little bit more of who we are in the doing, in the chasing the dust bunnies, which actually are a real thing in this room on the chairs. Not only in quiet meditation or in a Sunday service, but in putting refreshments out, or cleaning up afterward, or pulling weeds, or greeting people before a service, or spending time with our children in Kids Connection, or facilitating a team, writing postcards. All can be part of the spiritual practice that helps us deepen. Unlike a community organization in which we might donate a couple hours every other month, UUCM is a voluntary association, very much created actively by its members. No matter how many of us are ever in paid roles, right? It's you. So I invite us to consider a few very specific possibilities. I tell new people and prospective members that their presence and participation is going to change the community, right? Their being here will change the community because it's always shaped by who's here. And that being part of it, by engaging in some way, will give them a stake in it too, as member owners, right? As shareholders, as creators of the community. When I think of those photographs of those International Order of Odd Fellows, people all spread out on the lawn in the village of Maple City, an amazingly big group for an amazingly small town, I'm reminded of the tremendous number and kinds of voluntary associations that no longer exist, even though the International Order of Odd Fellows still exists in Grass Valley. I think of Robert Putnam's observation that in the 90s, Americans were by then more likely to be bowling alone than in leagues with other people. Right? That community involvement had decreased, and so the active civic engagement had decreased, that thing that's so necessary for a strong democracy. He named back then, in the 90s, that the important thing was to figure out how to reverse that decline in social capital. And here we are. And here we are. It heightens for me the power and the value of what we do together. So I want to name early in the congregation here a few things, especially for those of you who are not already on 7 or 8 committees. I invite you to ask us to help you find your next spiritual practice in the life of the congregation, whatever that might be, the thing that would bring you joy or help you grow or that piques your interest, maybe. I'm going to name a few things that the congregation could really use right now, because there are some specific things. And if these fit you, this could be a next thing for you. In November, we're about to move to 2 Sunday services on Sunday morning so that we can make room for more people who are seeking this kind of community for the sake of their own well-being and the larger well-being. For that to happen well, for those of us who take care of the Sunday mornings, here are a few things that would make a difference. One would be to be a greeter on some sort of regular basis of your choosing at one or both services. It's a powerful thing to welcome people warmly and sensitively. And you'll be well supported by Laura and the team. Having 2 services will actually allow a person to come to one service and then spend time with the children in the other service. You don't have to miss the service. Being an adult who's willing to be with the children, you don't have to design the plan or program. You don't have to create it. You don't have to even lead it. But to be that caring, attentive presence upstairs, that's something that would really make a difference and would really help. Or if you want to support family ministry, but being with children is not your joy, what they could use is one person to do the administrative piece, to get word out, a little bit of organizing, the behind-the-scenes piece that's not actually working with the young people, but helping our leaders who do focus their energies there. So the administrative piece, a simple administrative piece, maybe that is you. And another easy possibility, sort of, although we find it's not so easy, helping set up refreshments. Or if you're not afraid of coffee machines, make your job just setting up the coffee machines. Or being a person who cleans up afterwards, right? All great things to do with a buddy, like to invite a friend to join you. And of course, bringing food would be another thing, right? Just bringing food on a regular basis for refreshments. I invite you to find the thing that's right for you. And if you're not afraid of technology, being one of our volunteers for the audiovisual piece would be another place where your participation would be welcome. A few of hundreds of possibilities, right? Those are a few particularly helpful ways at this moment that you might consider. But whether this or another community is really your Zendo, your spiritual gym, your democracy skills cultivator, may you find meaningful ways to serve with grace for your own sake and the sake of our world, growing your spirit and community at the very same time, open always to what participating might have to teach you in the process. I want to close with just a few of the wonderful quotes that Cheryl found that run in the slides before the service, because not everybody gets to see those. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in service of others. Mahatma Gandhi. Work is love made visible. Khalil Gibran. Service is what prayer looks like when it gets up off its knees and walks around in the world. Michael Graham, a Jesuit. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and I saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. Rabindranath Tagore. I acted and behold, service was joy. May it be so for you.
Our community partner this month, Habitat for Humanity, is a real-life, dynamic example of service that leads to a heightened sense of belonging for all who are touched by it. This includes volunteers who build homes, as well as the families who work alongside them to build their own home. In the words of their mission statement, Habitat brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. They believe that every person should have the opportunity to live with dignity, and that every person has something to contribute and to gain by strengthening our community. 50% of our donations today will be shared with them. Likewise, our UUCM community brings people together through our Sunday services, small group experiences, educational programs, and opportunities to provide service or just have fun with kindred spirits. A strong sense of belonging is nurtured. Your donations enable the work of this church to continue. As the baskets are passed, we'll hear again from and eventually join our pop-up choir.
Cheryl's got the dedication. Oh, there's Cheryl.
That was fun. I recommend trying out the choir. Thank you for giving generously. In this small act are the seeds for many more. We dedicate these gifts to finding opportunities to serve wherever they may appear, to help build a world more compassionate, sustainable, and just. Thank you.
We're going to sing again in a second, so you might as well stay upright if that works for your body. Erik Walker Wikstrum talks about how in some 12-step groups, at the end, people will gather in a circle with each person in turn taking the hand of the person next to them and saying, I put my hand in yours so that we may do together what I cannot do alone. I put my hand in yours so that we may do together what I cannot do alone. May that be the spirit here, understanding that we put our hands in each other's hands so that we may do together what we cannot do alone. With that in mind, I invite you to sing Come and Go With Me to That Land, having in mind where it is that you are hoping we go.
Thank yous. Kevin, number one. And our readers, Sue and Mark, who stepped in so nicely.
Carol in the mix there? Carol, too.
Carol, yes.
Oh, yes.
Her
name's not on there.
I know, and you can tell I'm squinting to read as it is. And the wonderful pop-up choir. back in the back, their usual wonderful efforts, Cypress and Steve, Eileen on chat, Shanti for this gorgeous thing.
Marlene Bonfield's flowers.
Oh, wonderful. Where am I? Let's see. Oh, the greeters. Jim and Lori and Carl and Carrie, our lay pastoral care person. Refreshments, Michael. Carol, two Carols, Carol Medic. And upstairs, I believe it's Lindsay today, and Shannon Dewey Miller. So wonderful. This is community, right? This is community.
Take a quick look at what's happening this week. Humanism discussion, singing, meditation, UU 101 next Sunday. Circle suppers. Don't forget. Always check out the website.
Always.
Oh, we already sang that. Yeah. I jumped ahead.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
Our closing words with Faith in the Creative Powers of Life by Lindsay Bates. With faith in the creative powers of life, with hope for the future of life in this world, with love for all others who share this life with us, let us go forward together in peace. Our meeting has ended. Let our service begin. And now we'll join in the community benediction. We will carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. All right, see you next Sunday, talking to strangers.